Good day, good day.
Scientists say for the first time in history, they have proved that the remains of a small meteor came from outside our solar system. A research team back in June retrieved the remnants of an object at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. And tonight, their analysis suggests that the tiny metal spheres are like nothing we've seen on Earth or within our solar system. Joining me now is the scientist who led that mission. Avi Loeb is a Harvard theoretical astrophysicist and professor of science. He is also the best-selling author of Extraterrestrial, the first sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. And a new book is out just today called Interstellar, the search for extraterrestrial life and our future in the stars.
So, welcome everybody to Bitcoin Live, back with me and Sid. It's good to be back. There's a lot to talk about it. This was actually a clip from, I believe it was News Nation, about Avi Loeb's recent discovery in the Pacific, where he sort of combed out a certain spot in the Pacific with sort of huge magnets, and he sort of discovered or retrieved some small objects. He's gonna return actually to the same spot in order to find larger segments of the comet or whatever it is that sort of crashed there. But whatever it is something outside of our solar system, which is now almost beyond the shadow of a doubt, if I can understand what Avi Loeb said recently in interviews. So that's super exciting stuff. If you don't know it, we'll link it down below. What do you make about that amazing news, Sid?
Hey, yeah, so basically that's a big news, but a lot of people were watching on this project. So we know about Avi Loeb, but there are at least 100 scientists who are involved in this whole project, which he started. So for a discovery wise, he is actually doing the only scientific work around it. So he went to the ocean and he looked for some meteorite, which were exploded in our atmosphere in 2014. So he has an eye on that. And then after the discovery of Oumuamua, he actually started a group and then got the funding. By the way, the founder of ADA funded that. Cardano, founder of Cardano.
Yeah, that's true. Charles
Yeah,
Hoskinson.
so crypto is involved in that. So he funded that, and then Avi Loeb actually took all his crew, went to the place, did all his search through magnetize. He had a big magnet, and through that he searched the whole screen, the whole ocean floor, and then he found these objects, and then he brought back it to uh, to his to his lab. He already had a lab over there in his ship, but when he did the official lab, then he finally ended up doing the test in his lab in New York, and after that it was peer reviewed, I guess, and then I think it's finally clear for everyone that this ship is, or these pieces are alien origin. It is still possible that they are meteor from a different solar system, but what he said is actually turned out to be true, that they are not from our solar system. They are meteoroid, and all the scientists who were making fun of him should be ashamed now.
Well, let's listen to one of those scientists that try to make fun of him, or at least on what he's doing. Let's put it like that.
Well, in science, what people perhaps don't know is that eyewitness testimony is some of the lowest form of evidence you can bring to a scientific conference, which is odd because in the court of law, it's considered quite high. So here we are in these hearings thinking that the pedigree of the person delivering the information adds truth value to what they're saying. Whereas in science, part of what modernized science was our ability to create methods, tools, and machines to replace human senses in the reporting of what we experience. So I just need better data.
I'm curious what you think, Avi, because, for us, it does feel like a moment. It's very exciting with the testimony, and it feels like we're getting new information. But do you agree with him? I mean, from a scientific perspective, is it a little less, is it more underwhelming?
Well, the problem is really that people like Neil are pretending they really care about data, but are not seeking the data. He is talking about it, but he is not practicing science. And what I'm trying to do is go to the Pacific Ocean, where we know there is an object that came from outside the solar system, and study it. Now, it's possible the government may have some materials, some evidence that we have no access to, but the sky is not classified, the oceans are not classified. And if Neil deGrasse Tyson was really curious about this question, he would have been seeking the evidence rather than saying, we don't have evidence, it's an extraordinary claim, you need evidence in order to say anything, but he's not actually doing it. And practicing science is very different from talking about science. He's talking about science, I'm practicing science.
So that's, I think, magnificent, right? I mean, that interview is not very long, and people should really check it out. DeGrasse Tyson has, of course, he's right, that you have to collect data and evidence. But then, somebody should go out there and do that, right? Instead of just talking about it. And that is exactly what Avi Loeb is doing with his Galileo project, which is really amazing. And it's already, almost in full swing. He has some really big plans also. In one of the interviews, he mentioned that his sort of dream is to have like a three-pronged strategy. With the first prong is sort of, trying to retrieve these interstellar or objects from outside of our solar system that we know have crashed here and there. That's like the small achievable prong, which only costs like a couple of millions, and which he has just done. And then the second prong is, to establish these sort of very advanced detection systems and to install them in different places on Earth. And they now raised a couple of millions, or perhaps billions. I'm not sure if it
No. I think they are around. Their target was 100 million, but still they are in 10-20 millions right now.
Okay,
maybe more.
At least they had enough money to install like 3 of these sensor systems on different places on Earth, but they needed like 100 spots in order to sort of filter out the noise. And then the final prong of this mission that he's sort of started is to go actually out into space and to meet these objects in space, right? To make close-up pictures of them as they sort of approach Earth or move by, so to sort of get a picture of what kind of object it actually is instead of just speculating about it. Well, anyway, he's a hero.
No, he is definitely. And thing about Neil deGrasse Tyson is he have few talking points. He always say the same thing, and I've been listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson from like 10-12 years now. And what I noticed that initially when he used to see this stuff, they were very attractive. But now he's still saying the same thing what he was saying 10 years ago. Even his talking points have not changed. And that's why he's getting out of the picture.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have to give him credit, of course, for popularizing science and writing some excellent books. And he's, I think, one of the people who sort of did research into, what was it, string theory, if I'm not mistaken?
No. He didn't do anything.
No,
I don't think he even know about the string theory. He knows like the basics, but he is not into that. He's an astrophysicist, and he popularized that. Like his series Cosmos, which was like the remake of the original Cosmos by Carl Sagan, was very good. So, and then he definitely defended science everywhere. But the problem is he become a very different kind of a person now. Very skeptical of everything, even though when he sees a lot of evidence, and then he just dismisses them by calling them an eyewitness testimony. And we know that's not eyewitness testimony. The experience of David Fravor is not eyewitness testimony. We have a video of it. So that's a video evidence.
True. Yeah, even though right now they're sort of also saying that these jets just had like new equipment installed, so that might have messed up what they were perceiving. At least, that's sort of a counter argument that's going around right now.
Yeah, because they don't think in fourth dimension. Like, they don't even considering the timeline. When David Fravor had this experience, it was like 2004.
Yeah.
At that time, that technology was not even in the making.
Yeah.
It's not happened like few years ago. It happened like 20 years ago.
And also,
18 years ago.
Sort of what they said about discrediting eyewitness testimony. I mean, I think you should also make a distinction between government officials coming forward with information about the deep state, which is basically what they're talking about, and evidence as collected in the scientific method, right? I mean, witness testimonies in the scientific method are something completely different as witness testimony concerning, activities of the deep state. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to do scientific research into the deep state or something.
Exactly. Also, even in the court of law these days, eyewitness testimony in these matters of government matters is not enough, because even if David Fravor and bunch of other people come and say this is happening, court cannot do anything until they find the physical proof of it. So just saying that eyewitness testimony is very important in court of law, that's not true. Because
True.
I can tell you that there, from Stephen Greer, there are 600 army officials who testified in front of camera, not in front of Congress, but in front of camera, that there is a deep state going on and they have aliens and all that thing. Nothing happened because eyewitness testimony means nothing in that matter. They need physical proof.
Yeah, that was a serious project. One of Greer's, I think, good initiatives, and definitely worth watching because some really high-ranking officials went on the record there. But like you said, there's a difference also between a congressional testimony where you're swearing under oath to speak the truth and go to jail if you don't, right? So there's also a penalty if you're sort of just making stuff up. But go on.
No, but I'm saying even after the testimony, congressional testimony, nothing gonna happen until they find the actual proof.
True.
David Grush can go to jail for not speaking the truth. But if he's speaking the truth, and Air Force will not allow, I know that they will not allow any congressman to go to their base and actually do investigation for his claim, which we can see they are not allowing anyone. So until they can find the actual places where that was happening, nothing can happen.
So, this September, there's of course a big hearing. At least there's the rumors that there will be a big hearing. And we'll cover it as it sort of comes out. It hasn't come out yet, so we have to wait for that. But this episode is actually about something completely different, a passion close to your heart, which is stargates and Sumeria, ancient Persia. And this will be somewhat like a case study. I'm kind of unfamiliar with it. I mean, I've seen it come by, but for me, it was sort of like it was too way out there that I didn't want to sort of enmesh myself into it. But you sent me some really interesting articles and information, and then I thought like, yeah, that's true. I mean, some of the stuff that you saw, I do know that it happened, and we talked about it a little bit last time. Can you sort of introduce the topic and sort of give us some of the highlights?
So maybe in this because it's a very big topic, so in this episode we just gonna give I'll just gonna give the introduction of the whole topic and then brief overview of what is going on in the whole, like in the big picture. So let's start with the Iraq War. So let's start with Sumerians. So who are Sumerian and what they like? What's the background of that? So Sumerian basically is the first civilization who built the foundation of everything, from agriculture to our concept of time to our mathematics, astrophysics, basically in their whatever the information we have. They used to call it astrology, but let's just say that is a that's how it started. So they started everything. The concept we use until today, which is 1260 time frame, like 12 hours 60 minutes, was invented by them.
Wow.
And we are still using that. So first thing, and they are the first. Before them, there was no other civilization. So, and Sumerian, their main gods were Anunnaki, which basically means from heavens they come. So they come from the heavens, from the sky. So that's also a red flag towards that. Okay, they might be not God, they could be aliens who came and they started everything. So before that, everybody was a hunter gatherer, and they just transformed everything, like taught humans how to do agriculture and everything. And basically we didn't know about them for a very long time until we find cuneiform tablets in Iraq in 1900s, like early 1900s, maybe 1920, 1930, when they were excavating everything. So what they found like around 13,000 tablets, which were preserved in the museums of Iraq, and a lot of people try to decode them. They had really hard times. So there was this man called Zachariah Sitchin, who was the language expert, who took charge of decoding it. So he decoded all those tablets, like most of them. There were a lot of them, and then he started writing a series of books about them, what he understood from their like translation. And then there again, he was like Avi Loeb at that time. Everybody was criticizing him, like his translation has issues and all his concepts are bad. Anyway, so his most famous book is called 12th Planet, and the idea of it is started from the picture of the solar system which they found on the tablets. Can you open that picture?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah, so basically, when they were decoding, they found a big tablet, and there was a very unique photo, not the photo, very unique drawing on the tablet, which is of this one. So this is our sun, and then there are planets around it. And the funny part is they are exactly the ratio of that, and the orbit is according to the very current science we have, that's how the orbits are. So in that they have like Earth and Earth's moon also drawn in that, and there are total 12 celestial bodies. That's why he called that project, like his book, 12th Planet. So the only difference was we know that we have 9 planets, which, and then they reduced Pluto, and now we have 8. So when he was writing it, Pluto at that time, Pluto was a planet. So he had 9 planets, and then in this depiction there is one more planet called which they call Nibiru. Now the problem is, scientifically we know there is another body hidden in our planet, and they can find the gravitational pull of it, but we cannot see it. We didn't find it, but
There's a
scientists
lot of recent scientific research that actually proves that there might be something out there.
yeah.
According-
Yeah, so recent scientific research, we still don't know, like we didn't see it, but we can we can
Infer.
calculate the gravitational pull of it. So we know there is a planet out there. So they knew that fact 8,000 years ago. That's like an 8,000-year-old civilization. So that's a big problem, that at that time they didn't even have telescope or anything. They can't see that, and they came to that information very equally. like very perfectly that that's how it is. And there are other depiction where they have drawn 7 planets. So if they are, that's like a way, and then there's like a arrow showing that you have to go and cross 7 planets. So what they were saying, like what Zachariah Sitchin was saying, that if you come from outside the solar planet and come towards Earth, you have to cross 7 planets to reach Earth, because Earth is like the third planet from the sun, but from outside is the 7th planet. So they also depicted that. So that's one of his suspicion, that that's the way it is showing that you have to cross 7 planets to reach there. So anyway, the whole story goes about Anunnaki is that that's a civilization is living on that 10th planet called Nibiru. So before the existence of human, very long ago, they had a crisis on their planet where their atmosphere was leaving the pull of their planet, and it was deteriorating. So what they come up with a solution that they need gold dust in their atmosphere, so they can hold their whole they need, like, on the upper layer of their planet, they need gold dust which can help hold this atmosphere they are having. And they did not have a lot of gold on their own planet, so they looked around. They in our solar system, Earth at that time had abundance of gold. So they moved from their planet and they came to Earth. At that time, there were no humans, but there were other humanoids. And they had one enslaved race called Igigi. They came to Earth, they start mining, and they start taking the gold. The Igigi race had issues with the slavery, so they started a revolt, and there a war happened. So he was just not making it up. The story was written on those tablets which he was translating. So Igigi had issues. They fought. They were defeated. They were killed. Most of them were killed. And then Anunnaki decided that they need more workers. So what they did, they took their own DNA, and then they took a primate on Earth, which is like a monkey-shaped thing, whatever it was. They mixed the DNA and they created a new race called human race. And they started using them as a worker, which was so now the concept started to come for all the religions as well. So the first man they created, because it was created in a lab, they named him Adama, which is very similar to Adam. And he have all of his people. Then he was the main liaison, and they were doing all the mining for them. Anyway, the mining is done, but the first.
But before you sort of move on, because I know some people might right now jump up and down in their chair, right? You know, what is he talking about? Because Sitchin is also a very controversial figure, as you sort of pointed out. There, were some issues with his translation, and of course, sort of what he was talking about was completely mind-blowing. But sort of to back up your point, there was this guy, which Graham Hancock recently interviewed, well, a couple of years ago now, Mauro Biglino. And you might know him because he wrote Gods of the Bible, which was like a book which was actually also translated in Dutch. He's an Italian translator who worked for the Vatican. And he basically told a story that they took him on, and he published like a ton of books. I'm going to show the clip in a moment. And then as soon as he sort of started talking to the public what the Bible actually said, because he sort of was obliged to translate stuff a certain way and sort of let certain words stand as transliteral translations, when he sort of started explaining that the God in the Bible is actually multiple, like plural, and there were other issues with the translation that the Vatican didn't, sort of wanted to get out there. they fired him on the spot. So I'm going to show you this little clip, sort of to back up your point about ancient texts and what they actually might tell us.
So the problem is with the translation out of Hebrew into other languages.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
What is your special qualification to translate and to comment on biblical text?
I studied Hebrew with the Hebrew community of Turin. After I started to translate
What led you to start learning Hebrew?
for my interest, for my personal passion.
Yeah.
My personal passion. As you, I wanted to understand really, because I know Latin, Greek, ancient Hebrew,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to know what is really written in this so-called holy book.
Yes.
And after I started to translate for me, the housing, the publishing house San Paolo, that is the main important publishing Catholic publishing house of the Vatican, saw my translation, and after they asked me to translate for them.
I see.
And I translate 70 books of the Old Testament. They published them exactly as I translated
You were
them
translating
but-
into Italian or into which language?
into Italian.
Into Italian.
Italian.
Yeah.
But when I was translated for them, for example, the term Elohim was not translated, remained Elohim,
I see.
because a biblical translator Protestant. We met in front of 600 people, and they must say in front of
Well, actually, I wanted to show another piece. I'm going to show it in a little bit because, well, that was actually the piece that I fired him on the spot. But, you know, people can watch the interview completely afterwards if they want. It's a very fascinating study, translation work that he did for the Vatican until they fired him when he sort of started talking about what he actually translated.
So, I want to say a few things about that. So the whole concept that Bible have monotheistic God is a very new concept, because Bible is full of polytheistic concept. First, let's start with the most common one, Jesus. The whole Christianity, they say they are monotheists, but they are not. There are three gods in Christianity: God, the Holy Ghost, and Jesus. So there are three gods, and Trinity is also in Sumerian. But I want to go back to the Old Testament, where there's Elohim is the creator, and the Jewish God, and people say he is only one. But if you read old book, I've sent you a link, and basically there was a deity who was Elohim's wife. In the Bible, she's mentioned in the Bible. Her name is Asherah. Asherah in Sumerian world, like in Sumerian tablets, she is also known as the wife of Anu, the supreme god of Anunnaki. His name is Anu. So
Wow.
Anu's wife, which is Asherah, and Elohim's wife, which is Asherah, is the same person.
Yeah.
They even had the same similar idol of her.
Yeah, those kind of things nobody knows about. By the way, I found the little piece. I'm gonna play it very short, and then we can return.
the real meanings. And when in 2010 I started to write my first book about the literary translation of the Bible, I was fired in 1 minute.
Dynamite,
1 minute.
Yeah.
Which is which is really amazing. And well, sorry,
It's
so go on.
not surprising because if you're working for a certain religion, they want everything according to their principles. If you are starting to break those principles, they're gonna fire you. That's not like surprising for me.
Oh, and I'm sorry, sort of to mess up your story a little bit, but
No, it's important. I think that was important.
but
Context.
you sort of mentioned sort of the invasion in Iraq, which is you were leading up to it.
Yeah, so I was going to lead up to that. Anyway, so in that story, so before we go to that, you said like some people say that Zachariah is wrong, which is true. There is a whole website called Zachariah is wrong or something like that. So, or Sachin is wrong or something like that. Anyway, the point is, even if you don't take the alien version of the story is same in the tablet, which has been translated by many people. Instead of aliens, they just turned them into God. But the story stays the same. That there were the gods who had battles and they created humans in the same way. So story didn't change, it's just the perception of it, the way you look into it. Zachariah looked into them as an alien, and other translator just took them as a god. So stories stays the same. Secondly, anyway, so in those tablets, they had a suspicion. So, and then, okay, before the suspicion, this guy named Saddam Hussein took over Iraq, a military dictator, very bad person. So, anyway, he took over and then he started popularizing those tablets because until his uh, like his kingdom, you can say, nobody cared about or even know about those tablets. And then he started to rebuild all those places. Babylon was built under him. And then the funny part is he started to call himself the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon, who actually there is a whole story in Bible about him. So he started to believe in that part that okay, I am Nebuchadnezzar, I'm the reincarnation of it. And he's and then there was a rumor going on in the CIA that he found a way to build stargates towards different planets. And if he get that technology, he will become the ruler of the earth and he will become the most tyrant person. So they wanted to get him. So they were trying to get him. And the best option, like, okay, so they were certain about it that they had this technology and he was leaking that information. I think he was just fucking around and just giving that to tease Americans. But American took it seriously. And they had like strong suspicions because all the stories that came out of it through even the Nazis, because Nazis were also looking for the same process like Stargate, and then US had a Stargate project. And people don't understand that CIA back in the day in 90s, 80s, even early 2000 was very much involved in remote viewing and all those hocus pocus projects, right? So anyway, they come up with the idea that Saddam Hussein is first of all, he is a part of Al Qaeda. People don't understand Saddam Hussein was not even Muslim because he was believing in reincarnation. And that's like the only way you believe in reincarnation, you leave Islam. So he was not even a Muslim. Forget about being in partnership with Osama bin Laden or Al Qaeda. So that didn't work, the whole idea. So they come up with a new thing that he have weapons of mass destruction, which is also not true. We know that now, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, they didn't get any approval from the world. They just attacked Iraq.
Yeah. And how that went.
It went perfectly for America. In the initial days, they went and they destroyed the main, because there was a difference between Iraq and Afghanistan. Afghanistan didn't even have military bases. They had all the mountains. They were hiding. Saddam Hussein had military bases, so America knew the targets which they needed to destroy. So they did a precise attack. They destroyed all the base. They found Saddam. They killed Saddam within like few months. So their thing was done. So after taking over the Baghdad, the first thing they did, they took all those tablets and they transported it.
Yeah,
So this is not even a conspiracy because it's a public news.
Yeah, but it's something because there's a lot of sort of theories why they went in there. Of course, weapons of mass destruction was one of those theories, which turned out to be fake. But the other ones were, of course, maybe a gold standard, or to loot the gold, or maybe also to destabilize the Middle East or to take the oil. But what you're sort of saying is actually they went in for something completely different.
Yeah. So okay, let's start debunking all that. We know they don't have a lot of gold. If they had gold, they won't be in so much misery because their currency is so down. They don't have gold. Yes, they had oil, but America have already signed big deals with Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. So they are good for oil. So they don't need to attack a country for oil. That's a very lame excuse, lame conspiracy, because American didn't even say that. People just made that up because they need to make some story. And even what I'm saying, the tablet story, I'm not saying that's the only reason they went in, but there is a proof of it that the first thing they stole were those tablets. And all the explanation, they gave only two explanation, American government, that either first one was that he had links with Al-Qaeda, which is bullshit because he was not even proper Muslim. He was a very secular person, and actually he believed in reincarnation and
he
all
was
that.
from the Baath party, right?
Yeah, he was, but like his own views were not like, he was anti-Muslim. Like Muslims were in very like they were living a very painful life over there. They can't even visit their holy site properly. That he was
like a secular nationalism that actually really sort of hurt I think it was the Sunnis who lived there, right? Or was it Shiites?
no, Shias. They both lived there, but Shias, I think, in the majority.
Okay.
But they were the most oppressed one because he was killing all the Shias over there.
Yeah, really sad, tragic.
Yeah. Anyway, so Al-Qaeda's story was not fitting. Then they had to come up with the weapons of mass destruction, which has been proven that he didn't even have uranium over there. Nothing. They didn't find anything. And American generals know that because there are like testimony of few generals that they said when they told them to attack Iraq, they said, why? We don't even know why you're doing that. And there was a whole thing. Maybe we can discuss that later, or we'll play the interview. Anyway, so the whole thing was not true. And then the only thing US got from Iraq, the only thing were those tablets. Because they didn't find any gold, and they didn't get any gold. They didn't take any oil. They didn't even sign any contract to take oil from Iraq. The only thing, if you see in the big picture right now, sitting from this point, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying it now, this whole theory about the tablets is a very old story. It's been going on from the very day they stole those tablets. But people were like not even taking it seriously. People don't even take it seriously now. But
before you go on, so basically, more than 40,000 artifacts have been stolen, and some of them have been returned. And you could sort of say, like, that they could sort of taken those tablets even without invading Iraq, for example, because some of these tablets were already sort of abroad. And but it's very interesting because some of the articles that you sort of sent me were also people like this mister over here. I got it. I think it's this one. Mr. David Owen, a professor of Near Eastern Studies at Cornell University, he sort of said, like, before we return these tablets and artifacts, we should actually translate them for the public good, because otherwise they sort of disappear in the in the storage room of Iraqi musea and what have you, in the vaults, so to speak. And now they're sort of out in the open and we can translate them. And I think sort of your point is that they went in and took all these artifacts, and of course, they will deny that they did that. And of course, we cannot sort of prove that they did that.
No, we can definitely. There is like literal video of it that they are stealing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but they did it in order to translate it, and then sort of bring back certain tablets back to the Iraqis in order, to celebrate how great they are and how much they care about the culture of Iraq after looting it. But I want to sort of play one short video in order for people to sort of get an idea about, the amount of stuff that we might not know about that is hidden sort of in plain sight.
Well, it's funny, I've talked to a friend of mine, Professor Diana Walsh-Pasulka, who wrote a great book called American Cosmic. And she was one of the few academics who's been given privileged access to the secret Vatican archives. And the way she describes it, it's quite extraordinary getting access. See, there's a whole process you have to go through to become sufficiently credentialed to be able to gain access. And even then, obviously, it's, as you say, it's at the discretion of the people who run the archive what you get to see. There are, just to give you an idea of the scale, the archive runs underground under the Vatican, and Diana's written that there are 53 miles of shelving. That's
53 miles of shelving,
Yeah.
and so that's the stuff that we don't know about, don't have access to, and
we will not even get the access. And they have, I think the whole story about that archive is that they even have stuff from Library of Alexandria, which was apparently burned, but I think a lot of the stuff was saved from that too.
But sort of, because I did it with a reason, because I think they probably have like a similar amount of stuff in Iraq that we didn't know about, and where the US didn't have access to, until they invaded Iraq. And I think, the same thing you could say with the Vatican. Until they invade the Vatican and raze it to the ground, they don't have access.
So we as a people are different than the CIA or American intelligence.
Sure.
American intelligence knows everything. So they knew what they were looking for,
but they didn't have access.
That's the thing. They knew there is something, but they didn't have access. That's why they needed to attack Iraq to take control of the place.
And one more thing, and then I'll let you give you the word again, because one of the things that of course changed in today's world. A lot of things have changed, but one of the things that has changed is, of course, AI and translation, right? That's one really big change. And I want to play this little clip to give people an idea about, what is possible when it comes to translation. I'm gonna find it over here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. This one, yes.
Scientists tend to group rat calls into around 20 categories based on the kind of squeak. But beyond saying they're positive or negative, not much is known about what they mean. Deep Squeak can't tell us that. But it can organize every call it sees. That's what this chart is. It's a plot of squeaks organized by shape and pitch.
So you can kind of see the calls over here in this corner are all kind of long and wavy, and down here they're shorter.
Deep Squeak can even tell you if one call often follows another. Russell calls that syntax, which tiptoes toward an even bigger idea. That these aren't just calls, but maybe something resembling a language.
The most direct scientific answer is that the order of their calls is not random.
So what I'm trying to point out with this little clip from Wired, which is really cool, and I advise you to check it out because it's super cool, is that AI is so advanced, and this is 4 years ago, right? So advanced that it can almost perhaps right now it can actually translate animal language, let alone prehistoric or ancient cuneiform texts.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So
And large amounts.
yeah, but the thing is about cuneiform tablets, they all are translated. I don't know what that person was saying, that like in that article, why he was saying that we should have. First of all, that was the whole purpose. And they got to the university where he was employed very late. Initially, they were all saved in the US. First of all, no, first they were in Israel, and then some of them were moved to Vatican, and some of them came to US. The most important one, the most expensive one, which is going back now, is called Epic of Gilgamesh. It is the first ever written book in the history of Earth, which they stole as well. But that has been translated many times. There is a whole book. If you go to Amazon, there are like bunch of translations available for that. It's like the most interesting story. Yeah, if you can get, maybe if you didn't read it, one day I'll read it to you, or just tell it to you. Or people should, by the way, everyone should go and read that, because that's the first ever written book in the history of Earth. So now that's the one which is being returned to Iraq. But then there are a bunch of others. And by the way, what the person is saying is that we should translate before we return them. That's a stupid argument, because they have taken the photo of every tablet.
Yeah, but maybe not for the public.
Yeah, no, not for the public, but I'm just saying that when they archive something, they take a digital copy of it. So they have the photo of everything. So even if they give back everything, they will always have a copy and the backup of the copy as well.
True. But my point is, that is, for their private eyes, and this person was actually claiming that it should be for the public good.
Yeah.
And I think sort of the amount that has been translated up until that point before the invasion was probably a small section of the complete picture, right?
Yeah,
And
but by
that's
the
why
way,
they went
even
in.
if we don't have access to all 40,000, we have access to a lot of them, and then we have access to the dictionary of the cuneiform. I used to translate it for myself, because there are multiple dictionaries available, which give you the symbol and the meaning of it, or the language you use, like English. So you can easily upload. Even AI can do that. You can just upload the picture. AI will read the cuneiform and give you the basic translation using one of the dictionaries.
Cool.
There are multiple dictionaries, so it's not a big problem. I think this article is a little old, or the at least information is very old, because I was doing it few years ago, getting the tablets out, using the dictionary and translating it. And there are a website as well for that.
But I mean, you don't have access to all the text.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have access to all of them.
And they do.
Yeah. And I don't think they probably didn't find. I don't think they found anything. But what I'm saying, when they went in, especially if you look at the beliefs of intelligence at that time, they were into Stargate technology. They literally have a project called Stargate, if you know about it.
So let's sort of go into that, because that's basically what we're trying to aim at, is this perhaps ancient technology that might be sort of located or activated by getting the hands on these hidden texts, and that might have been the reason to sort of move in and take these extraordinary measures. So what do you think they actually found out, or what were they after?
I don't think because technically I don't think even Saddam found out anything, or US did, because first of all, like, what the point I'm trying to make is that they both believe that's what it is, and they started the whole war around it. But I don't think they were successful finding anything, because if they were, we will be seeing a whole different world right now.
Yeah.
One thing which is crazy, because there is a possibility that US found it and decoded it, because after this whole thing, few years later, we started to have Mandela effect. Before that, there was no Mandela effect. Do you know about Mandela effect?
Yeah, sort of the remembering of the past.
Yeah,
Right?
and it's not like few people, it's like everyone, there's like group of people, a lot of people think of something as a different thing, and something happens. So what one of the story came out of Mandela effect, that maybe they were end up creating a target and they went in past and they might have changed something. That's why people have different memories.
So
Because Stargate is not just like one point in space to another point in space. It's also one point in space and time to another point in space and time. So you can also time travel through uh, uh, these Stargates.
So, but basically, you're saying they might have found something, but it looks like they didn't. But they suspected there might have been something out there because of the way Saddam was sort of presenting it and
Yeah.
sort of styling
No,
himself.
this is, but what I'm saying, their suspicion was 100% that they knew they were something, but I think they were wrong. There is a possibility they were wrong and they didn't find, or they were not able to decode Stargate. Because if you look at the technology, yeah, it sounds very magical, and probably it's very hard to imagine to have portals. Oh, so like portals on Earth, and you are going from one planet to another planet. Yeah, that sounds hokey to me.
So,
But they did believe that.
so about all of this. So, what is your, so for example, Sitchin? So, how do you see him? Do you agree with him? Do you
I
sort of,
do agree with Sachin, because I'm not like 100%, but the whole idea makes more sense. And the reason for it, for human history, you didn't even know how to plant a seed, and suddenly you started growing the whole fields of agriculture. You don't even know what mathematics is, because there is no evidence of people doing mathematics, and you end up coming up with the perfect time system, 1260 system, which we are still using. We couldn't find but anything better than that. The lunar calendar, which is like which is being used by many civilizations. We don't use it in West, but in East, that's still the most reliable system. And like all the Eastern countries use lunar system. They have like different one, but the base of that started from Sumerians. And
and you can
they
also add,
invented glass. They invented the metallurgy. They invented everything which we know now.
and
And it's not been debunked.
you can also add to that, like, a lot of stuff that Sitchin might have was speculating about back in his time, about sort of the powers that these gods or these entities had. Like, they're now becoming possible through modern science, right? I just pulled up this recent article by the BBC that scientists grow a whole model of a human embryo without sperm or egg. I
Yeah.
mean, it's becoming possible to sort of, we're getting close to a situation where you can actually create humans.
Yeah. Also, one thing, Sachin was dealing with the most atrocious people in the world, which are archaeologists. They don't want anything new. They just want to stick to their old beliefs. They
Yeah.
don't even want to change 100 years in their dating, because that's what they used to believe. They want to stick with that. So that's why he was having a lot of criticism. But sitting in this world today, when we know that, yeah, I know about this whole embryo thing, it was a big news. Nobody actually cared about it, but I think scientifically it's a very big news. So knowing all these facts and knowing what we can do, we are going to space and so many things, that the story of Sachin, what he was telling back in the day, makes the most sense. And then every religion have the same stories, because I didn't get a chance to do the correlation between all these religions, but like all religion, take it from even from Hinduism to Islam to Judeo-Christianity, all of them have the same thing, that a first man made out of clay, which is very funny, right? Because they all made of clay means didn't born from any other person or any other thing. So it was probably made in a lab. That's how something come to life, right? From clay. And then the story of flood is common, which is also mentioned in Sumerian tablet. In fact, it is like the one of the main subject of Epic of Gilgamesh, which is being written right now. Not written by now, but which is being returned by US to Iraq.
And also, sort of to back up your claims a little bit, I sort of advise everybody to check out this really cool and great Netflix documentary series, Ancient Apocalypse by Graham Hancock, who also ran into this group of archaeologists, basically the mainstream archaeologist mindset that sort of said, what he's talking about is impossible, so we have to personally attack him and ridicule the documentary. But if you actually watch it till the end, which I also advise you do, not stop at the first episode and Google something online, but watch it till the end and then make up your mind if what he's saying does make sense or doesn't make sense. And I think because the documentary is actually put together very smartly, because it's not only his research, he's actually leaning on the research of top archaeologists in different kind of fields who sort of ran into a cul-de-sac, right, where they sort of, within the current paradigm, they sort of get stuck because it doesn't make any sense where they got. And then within his paradigm, it makes perfect sense, and then every puzzle piece falls where it should. And the final episode, that sort of nails it. And this guy, Graham Hancock, I used to not really follow him because, he had such a bad reputation. So I sort of passed it by. But sort of when I saw this documentary and started a little bit before that, and also this interview with the Vatican translator, Graham, he spent like 30 years of his life researching this, going to the spots, doing the due diligence, verifying information, going against the mainstream, which is also, something that is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. So if somebody spends 30 plus years of his life doing something like that, you at the very least can, give him the benefit of the doubt and listen to the man and what he has to say, and then judge him on the arguments and the evidence instead of, personally attack him and ridicule him, right?
Yeah. So, his story is amazing because first he came up with all like pyramids were very old and he was attacked by all the Egyptologists. So he took that personally. He was maybe compared to now, he was very young at that time. So he had so much criticism. So he started abusing the substance. Like he was smoking a lot of marijuana and then he had a very bad patch. And at that time, because of all the criticisms, he couldn't make some money to survive. So he was in a very bad place.
Yeah, and he was a journalist.
So he did some, so because of that, he did some stupid work, which was like doing some documentaries about demiurge, and that was like his darkest phase, like following the demiurge. Demiurge is like a dark entity, which is like a Satan, you can say, in our Bible and everything. So he was like following that part. And then he realized, okay, this is wrong. So he stopped using all the substance. He cleaned himself. He's sober for years. And then he restarted his actual work. And then he come up with all those things. So yes, he had a bad patch and there is a thing and he accept that. That's what I respect him more, that he accept that he was on the wrong side and he is much better now.
Yeah, because I mean he's very open about it also in many of his interviews. By the way, he married a woman from Africa, if I'm not mistaken, and he has like 4 or 6 kids. It's also kind of funny because they often say he's racist or is racist, because he sort of speculates that these people from Atlantis might have existed and that we sort of all these different cultures on Earth sort of originated from the survivors. And whatever you think about it, I think check out the documentary and then make up your mind afterwards before you sort of shoot it off. But even if if you say like, okay, the Atlanteans were white people. I'm not sure if that's the case, but that probably is what they're saying or something.
Who cares, man, about the race?
Yeah, even if that were the case, right? That also means that our whole culture is like a derivative of theirs, right? So it doesn't matter which color skin you have. I mean, basically, that would make every culture that came afterwards, including our own current culture, a derivative of these ancient civilizations. So it doesn't really matter. Either it's true or it's not true, and that's it, right?
Yeah. And then basically the whole thing came out because first of all, the people who are criticizing him, calling him racist, they think Egyptian people are black. First of all, Egyptians are not just black. There are some black people, but mostly that's like a mix of races live in Egypt.
Yeah.
And when he starts saying that, okay, Egyptians did not build it, he didn't mean that the people in Egypt did not build it. He just said the timeline is wrong. Pyramids were not built 3 or 4,000 years ago. They were actually built 11,000 years ago by the people of that time. So people just mistook it and they just said, okay, he's saying the white people built it, black didn't. But even the 4,000 years ago, the people built it were not actually black people.
Yeah,
the pharaohs were not black.
And I think that the reason that that sort of this sort of racism thing is sort of repeated is that because in these ancient cultures, some of these star travelers or the sort of prime gods appear to have like a beard and they have like a pale skin or something along those lines, and that's sort of and that's sort of why they think he was pursuing a racist theory.
Yeah.
But, really, is that the best way you can do?
Yeah, but that's the thing. When you don't have argument about anything like substantive, you go into that gray area where you start calling anyone a racist. When somebody's talking about historical point of view, that's what happened with the whole Netflix documentary Cleopatra. They made her black, and there is like a big black backlash because that's one of the history we know, because not that old history. It's just like not even 2,000 years old history. So we know the documentation, and a lot of criticism came for that documentary.
And it's a shame because it's politicizes the whole subject, and people sort of stop thinking and they stop looking at the evidence that he actually presents to make his case. And I think in multiple interviews he also said he couldn't care less which color skin the Atlanteans had or didn't have.
Yeah, and to be honest, we don't even know where they were actually, right?
We don't.
Yeah. Because we have suspicion that either it's in that location or it's in the middle of Atlantic Ocean or somewhere, but nobody actually knows where it is, where Atlanta was, or even it existed. We are all like, we are only thinking of it, but we don't know for sure.
And of course, people who hear this for the first time, right? I hope you're sitting down, right? Try to look at the links that we'll post underneath the video to sort of back up what we're saying. Of course, it's speculation, right? We don't know everything. Yeah. This is just our own research and what we think might be the case, or and of course our own thinking also evolves. It's not static or something. So we just invite you to do your own research, like everybody else in crypto.
Personally, I don't believe in anything. But I speculate and I just look at everything and see anything could be true.
True.
Maybe probably I think we are living in a matrix. That's the best explanation of everything. But other than that, if that's not true, which I don't even believe on that, but I'm just saying there are so many other possibilities than the mainstream knowledge. One thing I learned in my life: never trust the mainstream. They are always making stuff up.
Yeah, I think that's becoming abundantly clear to more and more people, thank God. And as that happens, the mainstream becomes worse and worse as a result of it, which is good. So this is like a first episode. We're going to return to this topic, I believe. And there's many other topics and case studies that we're sort of going to look into. I'm really looking forward also to Skinwalker Ranch, but there's like countless other topics that we can sort of touch upon. We didn't mention Bitcoin or crypto, but if you watch our first episode, I put out a theory that I think all this stuff might actually be related to what is going on currently. And of course, this entire topic also has this geopolitical angle, as we sort of mentioned. So it is very sort of interesting that it happened quite recently. The invasion of Iraq is not that long ago.
Yeah.
And as one of your articles also showed, the looting of artifacts just continued during COVID. So there was, so it's not stopped by any degree.
Yeah. About just crypto, just one thing: be very careful when you're clicking on any link. Yesterday, Vitalik Butrin's Twitter account was hacked. He posted a link. Hacker posted a link from his account, and $700,000 were stolen. So be careful. Don't trust any link. And if you find any link from any big account, don't use your main wallet. Create a burner wallet and use that for clicking that link. Just stay safe.
Yeah, and also, use different computers, different devices. Yeah. Also unlock your wallet. Don't keep it sort of attached to any apps or dApps, I should say. That also helps. And have multiple wallets, backups, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
So with that, I'm gonna end the show because I don't want to push people too far. We're gonna return to this topic, and we're gonna go to another topics. We're also gonna sort of talk about space trade, which will also be really cool. It's another one that I'm really looking forward to. And so the reason that we're doing all this stuff is just, not just because we are having fun with it and we love it, but also, to push for disclosure in our own way, to make people aware of this stuff, whatever you think of it, take it for what it's worth. And also because we think it might actually be connected to everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
That's why we called it the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, take care.